Hi, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about the categorical imperative, one of the most important contributions to philosophy, to ethics, and to the world, even by this great philosopher, Immanuel Kant. And sadly, this is also a widely misunderstood, underappreciated principle. And I'm not going to speculate about the reasons why philosophers today and for years they have a very negative view of the categorical imperative. I mean, I understand Kant's writing is not easy to understand, and probably you're going to see why in a moment when I put the categorical on the screen. But let me just in this video offer you my take on the categorical imperative and what I think it means. Okay, I'll let you be the judges of my view and see if there's any merit or value. Perhaps my view about the categorical does not do real justice to Kant's intentions, but or original, I don't know, plan, but who knows, right? What was Kant's original intention or plan? But okay, here it is. Okay, in his book, Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals. I mean, quite a title. I mean, with that title in a book, I mean, you can tell, okay, this Kant guy, it's not going to be an easy reading. Groundwork of the metaphysics of morals. Okay, whatever that means. And in this very important book, Kant talks about the categorical imperative in two ways. I mean, he offers like two definitions, but they're the same thing. This is one of the definitions. Act as if the maxim of your action were to become, through your will, a universal law of nature. Okay, what does that even mean, right? Act as if the maxim of your action were to become, through your will, a universal law of nature. What is this? Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, obviously, and this is probably why this principle has been misunderstood. Okay, so first of all, act as if the maxim of your action. What is a maxim? Okay, a maxim is pretty much a norm, a moral norm. Kant is asking us here to think about what we are thinking about doing, or maybe what we do, morally speaking. And by morally speaking, I simply mean your actions to other people, your actions or words to other people. When your actions or words to other people have either a positive or negative impact on those people, then that is a moral action. Okay? So, Kant is asking us here to consider, to reflect a little bit about our moral actions, our actions or words to other people. And he says, okay, try to, in your particular actions to people, try to see if you can abstract the moral norm of your action, your maxim. Okay, so for example, let's say somebody calls you, a friend calls you, he needs help for whatever, he's struggling with something, and you just don't want to help. I mean, you're tired, you're busy, and he calls you on the phone, and you say, oh, dude, you know what? I have a lot of work. Like right now, I cannot help you. Sorry, maybe next time. And that's it. Okay, think about that particular action, that reaction to your friend, right? And obviously, this is a moral action because your answer to your friend is going to have some impact, right? In this case, I would say a negative impact because probably your friend is counting on your help for whatever is going on. But okay, your answer, let's say your answer was negative. No, I'm busy. But you're not really busy. You're just tired. So you lied to your friend. I mean, you could have said the truth, right? Hey, dude, I'm really, really tired. Can I help you some other time? I'm sorry, man. But that's not what you said. You said, I have a lot of work. I'm sorry I can't help you. Like I really can't. Okay, so you lied to your friend. Okay. Well, now think about a maxim. See if you can, of that particular action, you can abstract a maxim, a moral norm. It is right. This is kind of like the moral norm or the maxim would look like. It is right to lie to your friends when it's convenient. Okay, that will be the maxim because that's what you're acting on, that principle, that idea. And okay, do you think, now Kant will ask, do you think you can turn this into a universal law? Do you think you can, in your mind, in your thinking, do you think everybody will endorse this norm, will say, yes, this is a good norm? I mean, try to do a little bit of an analysis here. And let's see if you can actually conceive in your mind people going like, yes, people telling you, yes, that is a great maxim, that it's a great norm. You should lie to your friends when it's convenient. I don't think you're going to get a universal consent. As a matter of fact, you might get a lot of pushback, a lot of disagreement. People going like, are you crazy? What kind of norm is that? That is absolutely immoral. That is what we should not do. So that is what Kant is asking you to do this analysis, to reflect on your action and see if you can abstract a maxim norm and see if you can universalize it. If you can, in your mind, conceive everybody will actually endorse this maxim, the maxim of my action or not. Now, to do that analysis, you need a very important ingredient, and it's here in the categorical imperative. You need a will, but not just a will. You need a good will. Now, this is very, very important for Kant. The good will. According to Kant, there is nothing more precious, more valuable in this world and even beyond this world than a good will. Now, what is a good will? Kant says is a will that acts for the sake of duty. In Kant's words. In my words, it is something like this. A good will is a commitment to always do the right thing. You know what the right thing is, and you're going to be fully committed to do the right thing no matter what. And by no matter what, I mean when it's convenient and when it's not convenient. Like, if you're committed, if you have that goodwill and you're committed to do the right thing always and to say it when it's true, that might get you into a lot of trouble, right? But that doesn't matter. That does not matter. Even if you're telling the truth or you're doing the right thing, it's going to take you to dark places. It doesn't matter. It does. You must always do the right thing. That's a commitment, right? So you see, it has having a goodwill. You're totally disregarding the outcome of your actions or your words. You're not looking at benefits. You're not looking at potential issues. You're not looking at any of that. Your commitment is to do the right thing, period. That is having a good will. And I got to say, friends, I kind of agree with Kant. Because it is so precious, it's so valuable to find people with this attitude that they're committed to do the right thing. Now, you might wonder, right? And what is the right thing? Well, we can sort of find the right thing when we apply this principle to our actions, to our moral actions. Reflect. See if the maxim of your action can be universalized, can be something that everybody in the world will endorse. And have a goodwill, like have the real desire to you do the analysis correctly and be honest in your analysis. Don't fool yourself, or don't be funny saying, yeah, everybody will endorse my maxim. You can lie to your friends when it's convenient. No. And let me tell you why it's easy to find a universal, let's say, consensus. It's easy to conceive, at least, a universal consensus. It's easy. Put yourself in the shoes of your friends. Well, how about if it's you that who's being lied to? Okay. How would you feel about that? Are you okay with people lying to you? Do you think it's appropriate in some context, right? People lying to you. Of course. Yeah, there are white lies, right? People fooling you because they want to give you a surprise party for your birthday. Okay, but that's not a moral thing, really, right? It's not something that is going to have a positive or negative impact in your life. It's actually going to have a positive impact, but you know what I'm saying. The maxim, when you abstract the maxim, it's okay to lie to your friends when it's convenient. Okay, you can never universalize it if you're acting on goodwill. Because nobody likes to be deceived. No one. And that is the universal aspect, right, of this analysis. But again, you need to have a goodwill. Now, the goodwill. So this is me, right? When I read this and I began studying the categorical imperative, I was like, "Whoa, this is really really cool. This idea, it's pure genius." But I realized that there is a problem, a very important problem, which is why Kant says that the goodwill is the most precious thing in the world. What is the problem with that idea? How do we know? How do we know we're acting in goodwill? How do we know people are acting in goodwill? Like, there must be a way of knowing. When people talk about intentions in ethics, right, in morality, people say, oh, I said this, but my intentions were good. Or he ended up killing this person with her advice, but she had great intentions. Like, okay, that's a very, very tricky analysis. Intentions. What is that? Okay, how about this? Instead of talking about intentions, let's talk about reasons, universal reasons. Okay, and by universal, I mean reasons that everybody will say, yes, that's true, that's valid, that's a good point, that's a good reason. Or everybody will say, no, that's not a good, valid reason. And let's consider those reasons, right? And on the other hand, with the goodwill, how do I know people are also acting in goodwill? So I struggle with this question, and I came up with this idea, friends. And the idea is the goodwill requirements, if you see on the screen. Okay, I'm taking full credit for this idea. Because once again, I was struggling. How do I know I'm acting in goodwill? How do I know people are acting in goodwill? When they talk about intentions, how do I know that their intentions? And why do I care about intentions? How do I know the reasons, the way the reasoning comes from a place of goodwill? Okay, this is what I thought. Let's add two goodwill requirements to our analysis. Once again, what's the analysis? The categorical imperative analysis. I'm trying to think if the maximum of my action, it can actually become a universal law of nature through my goodwill. Okay, that's the analysis we're trying to do. First requirement, so I know I'm acting in goodwill and you are acting in goodwill. First, reasonable objections to our maxim must rely only on factual information, knowledge. Maybes, what ifs, and other assumptions or hypotheticals cannot be considered as such. So, when I'm reflecting about the maximum of my action, when I'm trying to see if I can universalize it, if the maximum of my action can indeed have a universal appeal, and I'm considering objections, right? I'm considering problems about my maxims. I must keep this in mind. My objections must rely on factual information, knowledge, stuff that I do know. Okay, this is probably very theoretical right now, but I'm going to give you some concrete examples and you're going to see how this works. Okay, but that's the first requirement, goodwill requirement. The second, in the presence of reasonable objections, universal reasonably objections, maxims must be refined by adding provisions that allow us to reformulate our maxim in order to make it meet the categorical imperative and turn our maxim into a universal moral absolute, a law of nature, right? That's a moral absolute. A universal moral absolute is precisely what a universal law of nature is meant. So, okay, that means what? That means if I find in my mind an objection, or if I'm doing this analysis with other people, and somebody objects to my maxim, says, no, that's not a good maxim because of this reason, this objection. Okay, then what's the next step? The second requirement, the second goodwill requirement is, okay, then I have to tweak my maxim. I have to add provisions to my maxim to address that valid objection. And then I can have a better maxim, a maxim that can actually meet the categorical imperative, a maxim that can be universalizable, can be universalized. That's the word. Because that in the end, that's my will. That must be my will, a good will. I want to have the commitment to make my maxim something that it's universal. Okay. How does that work? It really, what are you talking about here? Okay. I'm done with the theory. Let's talk about concrete cases. Oh, before I do, we use the example of lying, right? Lying to your friends. Okay, that's an example. And for Kant, this lying, it's an absolute moral wrong. Okay? And it's an absolute moral wrong to lie, to deceive others. Why? Why is it universal? Because no one likes to be deceived. No one. And taken advantage of. Like nobody. So that's what makes it universal. This is for Kant. And I think this is the example that Kant uses in his book, in the groundwork of the metaphysics of morals. He talks about lying as a universal moral wrong. Okay, so you can never universalize that line. Okay, so now my examples. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, here, maxim analysis. We're going to consider here two maxims. But I got to tell you this. I teach philosophy, and online and in person. Some of my online students might be watching this. I hope they are. And but I normally do this analysis, this categorical imperative analysis, with my students in class, in person. And it's really, really, really great. Okay. So after I explain to them everything that I explained in the previous slide, I present them a maxim. Because here's the thing, right? There are opportunities for us to do the right thing, like 24/7. Like if you walk outside your house, your apartment, and you encounter people, friends, there's going to be opportunities for you, plenty of opportunities to do something moral or immoral. Okay, the thing here is, now we're going to start reflecting about our actions, our moral actions, and see if we can universalize it. If we can universalize the maxim of our action. So let's say I'm driving, happens a lot, in the interstate, highway, and I see somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire or something like that, struggling, somebody having car issues, obviously. And I look at the person and, okay, there's an opportunity for me to do something moral. Help somebody. Oh, okay. So now I'm doing the analysis, let's say, right? And I abstract the maxim of the action that I'm planning on doing, my potential action. And here it is. So, first maxim. You should always offer help to someone on the side of the road having car problems. Okay, that will be the maxim. Now, the always word, it's very, very important. Why? Because I'm trying to make my maxim universal. like something that everybody in the world will say, yes, that's the right thing to do. You must always do it. Remember, if I have a commitment to do the right thing, if I have a goodwill, okay, then that is something that I always must do. A maxim that I always must follow. So that's why the word always, and in other cases, the never word, it's also very important in our maxims. This is very important, so keep that in mind. So, okay, the maxim here is you should always offer help to someone on the side of the road having car problems. Now, when I present this maxim to my students in class, I say, okay, now, you guys give me an objection. And normally the first objection my students raise is something like, well, no, what if the person that you're trying to help, it's a criminal and somebody who wants to like trick you and he wants to like rob you or something. And I said, okay, wait a minute there. What is the first goodwill requirement? And no maybes, no what ifs, objections. That does not count as an objection. The only thing that counts as an objection is something that you know for a fact. Okay? Now, you're driving. You see somebody on the side of the road struggling with car problems. You don't know this person. So you cannot raise that objection. You're appealing to a maybe, and maybes are not good. Remember, the whole purpose of these requirements is that I want to make sure that you and I are acting in goodwill. Like you really have the desire, the commitment to do the right thing. So don't give me excuses. That's an excuse. You don't know this person. So that is not a valid objection, a reasonable objection. Ooh. So, but then another student says, but Mr. Molina, but what if I don't feel safe? Like the person looks like suspicious or whatever. And I said, okay, wait. I say then that would be a valid objection. Why? Because everybody, first and foremost, is concerned with their own well-being. So that is a valid objection. You don't feel safe, like you really don't feel safe. That person on the side of the road, that person looks suspicious. It doesn't give you, the person doesn't give you a good vibe, let's say. And okay, that's a valid objection. And I've learned recently, trust your gut feelings, So okay, this person doesn't give you a good vibe. Well, let's add now this is the second goodwill requirement. Let's add a provision. Now that we have a good reasonable objection, let's add a provision to our maxim. So here's a new maxim, or tweaked maxim. Provided you feel safe, you should always offer help to someone on the side of the road having car problems. Now, how about that maxim? You're looking at the person on the side of the road, and let's say, it's an old lady. Wow. And visibly she's struggling. She's having a hard time. I mean, you really don't feel unsafe. You actually feel like, wow, poor old lady. So, okay, that is not a concern. You feeling unsafe or whatever. So, now what? You must stop at least and offer help and say, hey, are you okay? Because here's the thing. A student used to tell me, right, used to object, but Mr. Molina, I don't know anything about cars. I don't know how to fix a car. I don't know how to change a tire. Okay, fine. But that's not what the maxim is asking you to do. The maxim is not asking you to fix anything. Just offer help. Stop and say, hey, are you okay? Is somebody on the way or whatever? That's what the maxim is asking you to do. Oh, okay. Okay, so any objection? Students sometimes say, well, Mr. Molina, what if I don't have time? Like I'm really in a hurry and I'm going to a job interview or I'm going to my job and I can't be late. I mean, and I think that's a valid concern, right? You have to provide for yourself and that sort of thing. And you don't want to get in trouble, lose your job. And I said, okay, fine. That's a valid concern. Nobody wants to lose their job. So, okay. Second goodwill requirement. Let's add another provision. Now, Provided you feel safe and you have the time, always stop and offer help to someone on the side of the road having car problems. Now, any objections? Now, you're driving, you see the person, doesn't look threatening at all. You have time. Now what? Why are you not going to stop and offer help? Why not? So, okay, you can think probably about other objections, but remember, no crazy hypotheticals. What if the person is an alien? Okay, like really, that does not show goodwill. That shows zero goodwill, zero commitment to do the right thing. So, but well, Mr. Molina, I don't want to help. Okay, then fine, don't help. You know what that means, though? You're doing something absolutely immoral. You're doing something contrary to reason. Kant would say pure reason. Because I love Kant's terminology. Kant used to say that, or Kant says in his books, that these maxims, these universal maxims, are commands of reason, things that reason demands you do. But the problem is people don't reason a whole lot. They don't reflect a whole lot about their moral actions. Their actions or words to other people. They don't care. That's why the goodwill is so precious. It's almost rare to find somebody with a goodwill, with a commitment to do the right thing, like a real, genuine commitment. And these two provisions allows us to see whether you're acting in goodwill or not. Okay, you have a good objection. Keep refining the maxim. Now, if you don't feel safe, okay, that's a good objection. So that means you don't have to comply with the maxim. You can just keep driving. I mean, you don't feel safe. You are not required by reason to stop and offer help. No, you're not. But if you don't feel unsafe, if you have time, then what's your excuse? You have no excuse. You don't want to help. You just don't have a goodwill. And you're doing something absolutely immoral. So I'm sorry, friends. I'm sorry. I think Kant really put his finger on something really, really precious, valuable here. Because he was convinced that morality, when you think about it, when you like really think well about it, it's pretty solid. It's pretty absolute. It's almost like mathematics. It's almost like 2 + 2 = 4. That's how morality looked for Kant. And that's how morality is. It's very, very, very precise. If you do the thinking right, just like math, right? If you make a miscalculation in math, you're going to get your result all wrong. And some mathematical operations are really, really complicated, right? Just like life. Some moral scenarios are really complicated. So they demand, more reasoning, a more high resolution level of analysis. But if you do the analysis, you'll get the answer. And the answer will be the right answer, the only answer, the universal, absolute answer. But today people, like, morality is absolute? Kant would say, oh yeah, absolutely, yes. Yes. You just have to do the analysis right, number one. And number two, you need a good will. Okay, let's try this new maxim, maxim 2. Provided you're physically able, you should always clean up after yourself at a fast food restaurant. Okay, here you have another opportunity to do the right thing. And look at these scenarios I'm offering here, right? They are regular scenarios we find ourselves in, like, on a regular basis. Like, how often, don't we go to a fast food restaurant or any restaurant? We can pick up our trash after we're done eating. Provided you're able, so we have a provision here already. You should always clean up after yourself at a fast food restaurant. Okay, I presented this maxim once in class, and a student said, Mr. Molina, I have a reasonable objection. Okay, what is it? He says, if you comply to this maxim, you're gonna leave the person unemployed. Like the person who is in charge of cleaning the tables, they're not gonna have a job. But then another student in class, she responded to that. She said, "No, wait a minute. The people who clean up tables at fast food restaurants, that's not the only thing they do. They also mop the floors and they clean the restrooms and they do other things in the store, right? So it's not the case that you're going to leave somebody, unemployed because everybody is picking up after themselves, like picking up their trash." Okay, now, there you go. Now, where's the universal appeal in this maxim? It's very simple, friends. If you ask yourself this question, won't you appreciate if somebody makes your work, your job a little easier? Just a little easier. Because think about if you are the person doing the cleaning, in charge of cleaning, and won't you appreciate people like picking up after themselves and you're like, wow, cool. Would you appreciate that? Like everybody will, everybody, every single person. Just like the previous maxim, maxim one. Won't you appreciate if that's you, like on the side of the road and you're struggling? Won't you appreciate somebody stopping and say, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need some help?" Universally, everybody will say, "Yes, I will appreciate that if I'm struggling," right? Because, okay, what if you're on the side of the road and somebody stops up for help and you don't feel safe? Okay, you can't just say, "Oh, thank you," but no, I already got it. Somebody's on the way. That's it. But still, um, it's good. Somebody's concerned. Somebody wants to make your life easier. Now, the second maxim, though, to me, it reveals something. Well, actually, both maxims, but especially the second one, reveals something really, really, really important about morality and the goodwill. When you see people, and when you're in a restaurant, fast food restaurant, and you see people, they're done eating, and they leave their stuff on the table and they just walk away. Don't you hate that? Like, don't you look at that and you go like, gosh, just pick up your garbage. You know, Probably some of you don't feel that way. I do. And I know many people feel the same way. And you know why? You know why you feel that way? You feel angry because you see a total lack of goodwill. You don't see anybody. You see people just don't care about other people. They just don't care. And you know what? That annoys people. That annoys me. When somebody has zero goodwill. Like you have the chance, you have all the means to do the right thing, and you don't. You have the opportunity to meet someone's need, and you're going to walk away from it. Like, really? Like, you have no excuse to help to do the right thing? That it's really infuriating to me. And probably for many of you watching, the question is why? The answer? Because you recognize there's no goodwill. No goodwill. People don't care. How about though? How about if we had that world in which people do care and people are committed to do the right thing? People do have a goodwill. Can you imagine? That would be ideal, right? That'll be something like heaven, right? For those of you who believe in heaven. You know what I'm saying? That'll be an ideal place to live. Well, maybe we cannot get there. Maybe we will never get there. But how about you? You watching. Think about this, right? Why don't you commit to do the right thing? Why don't you stop giving yourself excuses to not do the right thing? So, why not? Make that commitment. Maybe it can be difficult for you to make a serious long-term commitment, but maybe start with one day at a time. Make a commitment one day to do the right thing and reflect on your actions. There's so many opportunities out there to do the right thing. So many opportunities. And these two are just examples. Now, what I want to show you next, though, it's really cool. I and my students, when we do this analysis, and they understand the categorical imperative, and at least my version, let's say, of the categorical imperative, I ask them, okay, now here's an assignment for you. I tell them, I want you to think of give me a universal maxim. Come to class next time with a universal maxim. And then we'll consider them. We'll do the analysis, the categorical imperative analysis. If there's something wrong, we can add provisions and whatever, and see what we can come up with. What absolute moral norms, laws of nature, we can find. And I want to give you, friends, I want to offer you a list of maxims that my students have found, and I'm telling you, some of them are like really, really, really amazing. So let's do it. All right. Universal maxims found by my students. So take a look. Provided you are able, always let a person know when she or he has accidentally dropped or left something behind. You see somebody standing up at a restaurant from their table and walking away, and they forgot their wallet, and you're seeing it happening. How can you just do nothing and keep your mouth shut? Like really? And you're able. It's not like you because the provision is very important, because what if you're mute? You cannot speak, right? You can make gestures and stuff, but okay. But let's say you're able, and this is most people. I mean, really, friends, how can you not let somebody know, hey, you're forgetting your wallet, you're forgetting whatever, your letter, your phone. Tell me, if you see somebody looking at other person forgetting their phone and walking away and not doing anything, won't you feel anger? Zero goodwill, right? So, but it's sad. It's sad how often people say things like, well, it's none of my business, none of my business, none of your business. You just have zero goodwill. You're a terrible, I'm sorry, you're a terrible human being. Terrible. Now, if it was your wallet, tell me, would you like other people telling you, hey, you're forgetting your wallet? You dropped a $20 bill. I mean, would you be happy? Right? Okay, so no justification for not complying to this maxim. This is a universal absolute maxim. So, next, always turn off the water after you're done using it. One objection a student raised was, Mr. Molina, this is not a moral action. This is not actually doing anything to someone concretely. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. We all need the water. This is something we all need. Okay, so we all value. So trust me, when you are mindful of shutting off the water when you're done, trust me, people appreciate it. Okay, that's something important, moral to do. So, and again, when you see people in a public restroom leaving the water faucet open, the water running, don't you hate it? Like, dude, like really? Zero goodwill. 3, always put the shopping cart you're using in the designated area. This is like the fast food restaurant, right? Cleaning after yourself. Like everybody appreciates when their job is a little easier. Somebody helps you, making your life a little easier. So that person who is in charge of, putting the shopping carts together, they're going to appreciate it. Trust me. Okay. Okay, you got a little problem here. Okay, I'm going to go to 5, I guess. Provided it doesn't cause any serious physical discomfort. I'm not kidding. This was one of my students. Provided it doesn't cause any serious physical discomfort, you should never fart in the near presence of others. It's funny. I remember this was a maxim a student proposed in class, and the maxim originally was, "You should never fart in public." And then a student objected, reasonable objection, said, "Okay, wait, but if I'm in a park and people, that's a public place, and people are away from me, why not? I mean, it's not gonna hurt anybody if I fart." Okay, good. So, okay, then let's say it's people who are nearby, like near presence of other people. And okay, and then somebody else objected with, "Hey, but if I'm having a pain in my stomach and I have a real condition, okay." Then we added a provision. Provided it doesn't cause any serious physical discomfort, you should never fart in the near presence of others, right? What justifies somebody farting in a room, in an elevator? Okay, let me see if I can get to 4. Yes, there it is. Never take credit for someone else's work without their authorization. Whoa. Whoa. Can you imagine? I want you to look at the universal scope of this maxim. Can you imagine somebody taking credit for your work? Can you, I mean, would you be happy? Of course you won't. Of course you won't. You're going to use someone else's ideas, work. Okay, acknowledge that. Or or tell the person, "Hey, will you be okay if I use your ideas or whatever?" It's a moral absolute. Oh, okay, we got it again. 7. You should always report a missing child to the appropriate authorities. Oh, it's something I wanted to say now about maxim um, number 5. This is very, very, very important because it's the first maxim that has a never word. Oh, actually, number 4 also. Okay, but number 5, right? The never word is very important because I always tell my students, try to stay away from never do maxims because normally the never do maxim, it's something legal, right? We're not doing morality, we're doing legality normally. But there are exceptions to this rule, let's say. And okay, so number 5 is an exception because you're not going to be in trouble with the authorities, right? If you don't comply with this maxim, but you fart in an elevator. I mean, right? But you should never do that. Now, number 4 has more of like legal implications, right? Especially if you're like, think about copyrights. And when you're quoting somebody without, making the right reference, right? You can get in trouble. Plagiarism is called, right? So, yeah, there might be some legal, and that's my point. Usually, the never do maxims, they have some legal aspect to it. But number 5 is it's an exception to that rule. So, okay, number 7. You should always report a missing child to the appropriate authorities. Like there is no excuse for you to see a child that is obviously lost and just walking away because you're busy. Like really, really. One day a student said, "Okay, objected. How do you know the child is missing? How do you know that for a fact?" I said, "Okay, not too long ago, I was in a mall, and I remember with my teenage daughters, and we were hanging out, and we see this tiny little creature, this girl, probably 4 years old. She was by herself in the middle of this was in the food court area, and she was like this." Okay. Mm, should I ask the child if she's missing? I mean, really? Obviously she was, and I went up to her, said, "You're looking for mom, right?" She was like, "Okay, don't worry, honey. We're gonna find mom." So I called security, was security person nearby. Okay, happily we found mom. She was at a store, and okay. So nice ending to that story. How can you, like, really, you're gonna come up with an excuse to not report a missing child? Okay, I want you to look at the universal aspect here. What if this this is your child? What if this is your child? Your child is missing. Won't you appreciate people doing something about it, notifying the authorities? People in the world universally will say yes, always. So there you go. Unfortunately, this is not there are not legal consequences for people who are not willing to help. So that's the problem with the always do maxims. And it's not a problem because it's what separates morality from law. Okay, that's one way of looking at it, right? The always do maxims are moral maxims. The never do maxims, normally, they tend to be illegal. But okay. 6, there you go. You should never intentionally litter. If it was an accident, okay. But you're doing it on purpose. Two things. It's aggravating when you look at people littering because you will detect in zero goodwill, number one. And number two, because it's a never do maxim, in some instances there can be some legal repercussions, right? There can be. So it's one of those maxims, never maxim, that can be have that legality aspect to it. 8. These are all my students' maxims. Provided you feel safe in the situation, you should always step in when you see someone being physically abused, especially if that someone is a child, a woman, or an elderly person. Provided you feel safe. Do something. Say something. Okay? No excuse. None of my business. Number 9. You should always warn people if you know they are unknowingly in danger. I love this maxim. It's an amazing maxim. How can you not warn somebody? They're gonna do something that is going to it's not gonna end well. Like that for a fact. Well, but that's a bit too vague, Mr. Molina. Okay, think about this example. You have a good friend, dear friend, and she is dating this guy. This guy is no good. Like he has. I mean, he's no good. He has a history, but she's not aware. Your friend is not aware. For a fact she's walking into a very, very dangerous place. How can you not warn your friend? Say, hey, that guy you're dating, that guy you like, there's something you got to know about this guy. You got to know A, B, C, and D. Now, once you do that, it's up to your friend. If she wants to continue going out with this guy, okay, that's her business. But at least you did the right thing. You did the absolute moral right thing. So it is your business. Number 10, always try to use your knowledge and skills of technology to assist the elderly in learning and navigating the digital world. Okay, you see, there's so much you can do for people. So much. Okay, next maxim. Always use your turn signals when changing lanes or turning into traffic, provided they are functional. These are my students' maxims. I said that so many times already. Number 12, this is huge. In a debate or exchange of ideas, you should never, and this is a never maxim, you should never let the discussion escalate to the point of violence. What a powerful maxim. Friends, I gotta tell you this. Allow me a sip of water. For years, I find Jesus' teachings have a lot of wisdom to it. But there was one that I really struggled for many years. When he says, if somebody slaps you on the right cheek, offer the person the other cheek. Like, what? That is plain stupid, right? If somebody smacks me here, what I should do is, okay, now try this side. Like, really? Like, that's stupid. That makes no sense. But one day it started to make sense. And in the light of these, of maxim number 12. So I guess it's something like this. If you, this is like sort of paraphrasing that teaching of Jesus, right? The offering the other cheek. Something like this. If you were so dumb as to not see the discussion that you were having with this person was escalating, you were as dumb to not see that that was not going to end well, and he smacked you on the right cheek, you deserve two punches, man. You deserve two. Punched you once, you deserve two, a second one, for being that blind and that stupid. I'm sorry for using that word. I don't like using it. But you know what I'm saying. When I'm talking to someone and we're having a difficult discussion and I see the discussion is escalating, friends, you know what I do? I said, okay, don't worry. We don't have to argue about this. Especially in the context of marriage. This is very, very useful. Very useful advice. Very useful maxim. You're having a difficult conversation with your spouse, your significant other, and he or she is getting like really, really angry. Stop. Lower the temperature. Say, okay, honey, let's have this conversation later. Like, let's do something different. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for bringing this up right now. Probably was the worst time. Do it. Do it. It's your moral duty. And how interesting. It's a never do maxim. Okay. 13. Provided you are physically able, always report the owner of the vehicle you damaged if she or he is not present. Would you appreciate it? Somebody scratch your car, you're not there. Would you appreciate the person actually letting you know, reaching out to you, leaving a note on your windshield or something? Hey, I'm sorry, I scratched your car. Here's my info. Everybody will say yes, right? 14. Provided you are physically able, always hold the door to the person walking in right behind you. Okay. All right. People always do that, right? And they find that morally appropriate. Sure, why not? Provided you have the means, access to clean water, soap, etc., always keep yourself clean and avoid having strong bodily odors. Not kidding. This is okay. Was not my idea, but I think it's important, right, to not stink, and for the sake of other people. Okay, so please, I mean, even if you don't care much about yourself, I mean, you have to be mindful of others. Never intentionally hurt someone with your words. Wow. Wow. Another never do maxim. This one is powerful, right? Sometimes you say things and you don't mean harm. Speaking of intentions, right? Okay, you meant no harm. That was not your intention. But when you do it intentionally, when you, like, this was your desire, you wanted to hurt someone with your words, okay, that it's never, never, ever right. It is an absolute wrong. But here's the answer to number 16. Here's the solution. Always apologize to someone you know you did or say something hurtful to. Okay, you messed up. Okay, you said something hurtful. Now go and apologize. It is an absolute moral norm. It is what reason demands you do if you have a good will. If you really care, like really care, if you're really mindful about doing the right thing, okay, so apologize. When was the last time you apologized to someone, I wonder? Okay, I think I'm done with the maxims. I have just one more thing to say, and we're done. I want to talk to you about Habermas. In my estimation, I said this before, the greatest philosopher of the past century. Like, it's unbelievable how unknown this man is. But like Kant, also German, His writing, boy, is so dense. It's so dense. Like you have to read and reread and reread the same paragraph to sort of get what he's saying. And you also have to be very well familiar with philosophy, the history of philosophy, especially continental philosophy and analytic philosophy. So, I mean, there's no escape. You got to know your philosophy to understand Habermas and to appreciate the value of his work. Kant embraced a traditional conception of reason. This is Habermas. Traditional conception of reason. What is that? An understanding, a conception of reason that does not rely or depend on other individuals. Habermas has been deeply influenced by Kant's work. In many ways, he's a Kantian. And yet, Habermas believes a monological conception of reason does not do justice to the practical value of the ontology. That's pure Habermas, that terminology. Monological conception of reason. Means what? It means when you think reason is just something that is in you and that's it. You live in your own little world and that's what reason is. Okay, that's monological, just one person doing the thinking. So my maxim analysis here in this video and in my classes actually combines Kant's theory, okay, categorical imperative, with Habermas' conception of intersubjective reason, where we all participate in the analysis of maxims by being able to distinguish reasonable objections from excuses and by refining our maxims. This is a mind-blowing concept. I talked about this in one of the my lessons on modern existentialism. A lesson, is it lesson 2? I think, lesson 2, video 2. I talked about Habermas and this idea of intersubjective rationality. That idea, my friends, just completely changed my way of looking at things. And I was able to understand so much. Okay, reason, friends, it's not personal. If you think about it, fundamentally, reason is collective. That's what it means, intersubjective reason. Reason is a collective thing. Why? Because we don't learn to speak on our own. We need other people to teach us how to teach us words and grammar so we know how to speak. And speaking is thinking, because every time you formulate a thought in your mind, you use words and grammar, right? So, and when you're able to think about very difficult concepts and theories and stuff, I mean, you need a lot of good words and a lot of good grammar. Well, that good words and good grammar was given to you by the collective, by your parents, by your siblings, your peers, television shows that you watch, your teachers at school, your classmates. All these people gave you words and grammar, and you have an ability to think because of other people. So thinking, it's fundamentally reason. It's collective, intersubjective, Habermas would say. So that means what? That means that Kant made the mistake of, well, not a mistake, but okay, he was operating under this monological conception of reason. He was just doing all the thinking in his own mind. You know, I'm trying to universalize the maxim of my action. Will everybody consent? Okay, how about we do that exercise, that analysis with others? Because in reality, the more people we engage in the analysis, the better the analysis is going to be. Because, friends, the reality is 2 people think better than 1. 3 people think better than 2, and so on. So on. That's why when you're stuck with a problem and you're struggling and somebody says, hey, why don't you try this? You go like, you're so right. Duh, right? What was I thinking? Thank you. People see things that you don't see. So you have no idea how much I have profited from my students' insights and objections and comments. So because in my own thinking, I think, I got a great idea and it's the best idea. But then when I present it to my students, they start giving me very good objections. And I'm like, whoa, that's true. I never thought about that one. So I encourage you, right, to adopt the same mindset. You're going to profit so much if you invite other people, right, in your thinking, in your analysis of things. This is why, you see, this is why podcasts are so popular today. Like I can go on and on with this intersubjective idea of reason, on and on, all day. But that's just one example. That's why podcasts are so popular. They're conversation, and in a conversation, you get to see things that, whoa, you never saw before. You're like, whoa, they're so cool. You learn so much. Well, that's my take on the categorical imperative. It's a precious, valuable principle. And you can understand, you can see morality from a universal perspective. And you can actually see that morality is pretty universal. It's pretty rational. Like 2 plus 2 equals 4. Really? I thought morality was something subjective, relative. Kant would say no. You think it's subjective because you're not doing the thinking correctly. Number one, and number two, you don't really have a good will. You don't have a good will. So how about that? All right, friends, that's all I have. Thank you for watching. Post a comment. Tell me what you think. And I hope to see you next time. And I hope this idea was helpful. Bye-bye.